When a king is attacked, it is called check. A checkmate, also known as mate, occurs when a king is placed in check and has no legal moves to escape. When a checkmate happens, the game ends immediately, and the player who delivered the checkmate wins. Checkmating your opponent should be your top priority, since this will ensure your victory even if you have less material or if you have had a worse position throughout the game. In the position below, we can see that white has less material, but is able to deliver checkmate. Types of checkmate, also known as checkmating patterns, are models that you can use to force a checkmate upon your opponent. Each pattern requires a specific combination of pieces, either from your own army or taking advantage of the placement of your enemy's pieces. Texto predeterminado.
Ladder mate are the ladder mate, my chess safety net, especially when the clock is ticking. This checkmate technique is versatile, reliable, and surprisingly easy to execute. It was the first checkmate technique I learned, and it might also be the checkmate I've pulled off the most in my own games. The rooks or queens create a ladder-like structure to corner the enemy king. To execute the ladder mate, your heavy officers must be positioned on different files, and the enemy king should ideally be as far away as possible to prevent it from attacking you and disrupting the checkmate. I've set up the ideal position for delivering a ladder mate on the board. Sure, not every game hands you this ideal scenario on a silver platter, but understanding this technique often allows you to manipulate the position to your advantage and achieve the ladder mate anyway. Let's get started. The first step in executing a ladder mate usually involves advancing our rook or queen one rank below the enemy king. Take note of how we establish a fence along the 5th rank by maneuvering our rook to h5, effectively blocking the enemy king from crossing that rank. We are now ready to deliver the ladder mate. Rook g6 check. We advance our other officer one rank above the first, forming a ladder-like structure. Rook h7 check. We continue forming the ladder-like structure with each move, gradually forcing the enemy king toward the edge of the board. Rook g8, checkmate. Despite its simplicity, the ladder mate remains a frequently employed checkmate technique, a testament to its effectiveness and reliability.
Let's practice some puzzle over this type of mate.
How do you ladder mate the enemy king in this position? Checkmate. Well done. Can you locate a powerful sacrifice that enables you to achieve the final position of the ladder mate? Remember to explore all checks and visualize the entire lines. Queen take f8 check. Brilliant move. Rook c8, checkmate. Awesome job. The ladder mate in action. A sacrifice paves the way for the final position of the ladder mate. Analyze all possible checks and visualize the complete lines before making your move. Queen take h6 check. Brilliant move. Rook h take h6 checkmate. Well done. The enemy king is ladder mated. The back rank mate is one of the most basic checkmate patterns in chess. This checkmate occurs when you trap the enemy king on its back rank, first rank for white, eighth rank for black. A rook or a queen delivers the checkmate, and the enemy king must be trapped behind other pieces, usually a wall of pawns. In the early stages of learning chess, we're often advised to castle our king quickly to secure it behind a protective shield of pawns. However, it's crucial to be familiar with the back rank mate pattern because the king is not always completely safe behind this pawn structure. Ask any club player, and they'll likely recall at least one over-the-board game where they forgot to defend their back rank, especially in time trouble, leading to a checkmate. It can be a bit humbling since the back rank mate pattern is so basic. This emphasizes the importance of not only protecting your own back rank, but also keeping an eye on potential back rank vulnerabilities in your opponent's position. Let's get the checkmate pattern on the board. Queen c8 check. Brilliant move. By sacrificing our queen, we set the stage for delivering the back rank mate. Rook takes c8. Checkmate. The back rank mate is now on the board. Take note of how the enemy king is entirely trapped by its own pawns. Also, observe our own pawn formation. Earlier in this game, white played pawn to h3, creating an escape square for the king on h2 in case the opponent attempts any backrank shenanigans. Pawn to g3 is also a good option, while pawn to f3 often creates too many weaknesses along the a7, g1 diagonal. Remember this pawn maneuver in your games, and you'll often avoid worrying about the back rank mate. There are exceptions, of course. If the opponent somehow attacks the escape square h2 with, for example, a bishop or queen, the king can still be back rank mated. Nevertheless, the maneuver significantly reduces the chances of getting back rank mated, so it's a recommendation, especially when the time is ticking.
Let's practice some puzzle over this type of mate.
Deliver the back rank mate, but take some time examining the board first. Well done. The king is back rank mated. Stacking the heavy officers on top of each other in the same file creates a power-packed formation called a battery. The battery can exert immense pressure on weaknesses in the enemy camp here, specifically targeting the back rank. How would you execute the back rank mate in this position? Queen take e8 check. Brilliant move. Rook take e8. Checkmate. Well done. The king is trapped. The threat of a checkmate is the most powerful threat on the chessboard. By creating such strong threats, you can often win valuable material. This position is no exception. You can seize material by capitalizing on the opponent's vulnerable back rank. This exercise is challenging, so here's a hint if you find it difficult to solve on your own. In this position, you can exploit the enemy's weak back rank to capture a bishop. If black isn't cautious, they might fall into the trap of the back rank mate. Rook take b7. Brilliant move. A huge blunder by black. How did you exploit it? Here with g6, black's only defense is to sacrifice their bishop to safeguard their back rank. Queen e8 check. Other brilliant move. Well done. The back rank mate is on the board. Despite our opponent's attempt to create an escape square for their king on h7 earlier in the game, it doesn't provide much help when our bishop is attacking it. Keep in mind that checkmate patterns are not only useful for securing victory, but also for threatening your opponent, potentially gaining you valuable material advantages. Battery mate. While we've briefly touched on the battery formation, it's time to dive deeper into this potent and versatile tool that can help you deliver checkmates in your games. Now, defenses against a battery do exist, but there are moments when your opponent finds themselves defenseless against your battery formation, left with no options. The mere pressure from a battery formation might even force your opponent to sacrifice pieces just to dodge the impending checkmate. A battery takes shape when you stack heavy officers on the same file, like doubling your rooks or involving the queen. Currently, observe the rook-queen duo on d8 and d6. This power couple can apply pressure down the d-file. However, this battery is not very useful right now, as it's presently blocked by a pawn and somewhat pointing into nothingness with no clear target. Now, imagine them on an open g-file instead. That would undoubtedly make the opponent uneasy. But wait, there's another valuable battery on the board. Let's make a strategic pawn move to highlight it. Take a look at this power couple. A battery doesn't only involve rooks and queens. It can also consist of a queen and bishop placed on the same diagonal. To qualify as a battery, the queen must be placed in front of the bishop. After our pawn move, The diagonal is wide open, and look at the square they're pressuring. The pawn move not only opens the diagonal, but also attempts to remove a defender. The knight is the sole defender against the checkmate on h2, the only officer standing between us and checkmate. White is in dire straits due to our potent queen plus bishop battery. There's no way for them to save the knight and avoid checkmate, forcing them to either lose the game or surrender an officer for free. It's a mistake. With g3, avoid mate. Remember this pawn move for your own gains. It effectively blocks the queen plus bishop battery. However, white had to sacrifice their knight to stave off checkmate, a favorable outcome from creating a seemingly simple formation, but lose a piece with e-take f3. Queen take h2, checkmate. Should white make a misstep and try to save their knight, it's curtains for our opponent. Witness the power of the battery. I encourage you to experiment with both the heavy officer battery and the queen plus bishop battery in your games. Ensure these batteries are pressuring weaknesses in the enemy camp, preferably toward the enemy king. In a moment of distraction, your opponent might blunder checkmate. Even if your opponent is seasoned, the battery can still deliver unavoidable checkmates or be used to coerce them into giving away valuable material.
Let's practice some puzzle over this type of mate.
We have a powerful queen plus bishop battery, but the opponent's knight is blocking its path. How can you utilize the threat of our queen plus bishop battery to secure a free knight? Well done! A free knight, all thanks to the threat posed by our battery that could checkmate the enemy king. We have a potent battery positioned along the g-file. How do you leverage it to checkmate the enemy king? Remember to examine all checks and visualize the entire lines before moving. In some cases, a battery might be potent enough to justify a sacrifice. Rook h8 check. Brilliant sacrifice. Queen g8 checkmate. Very well done. We have a powerful rook battery on the 7th rank. If not for the pawn on b7, we could easily checkmate the enemy king by moving our rook to a7. Black is threatening a checkmate of their own, so quick action is imperative. Can you identify a powerful sacrifice that forces the b-pawn to move and awaken our rook battery? Remember the check, capture, threat method. Queen take a 6 check. Brilliant sacrifice. Rook a7 checkmate. Well done. That was a tough one. It's time to explore the Arabian mate, one of the most foundational checkmate patterns where a knight and a rook collaborate against the trapped enemy king in the corner of the board. The Arabian mate is not only frequently encountered in tournament play, proving difficult to defend against once initiated, but it also holds historical significance in chess. Now, let's explore the Arabian mate through a real battle between titans, Grandmaster Boris Gelfand and the former world champion Grandmaster Vladimir Kramnik. Kramnik's officers are happy indeed. Not only does he have a rook battery on the b-file, but he also stationed a powerful knight on the third rank for added flair. The queen hits the enemy king's crumbling castle from afar, where the king is backed into a corner. In this very position, Kramnik spots not one but two potent sacrifices, leading to checkmate through the Arabian mate. Rook take b2, great sacrifice. Kramnik sacrifices the rook. White has no option but to capture it, as the Arabian mate is threatened on a2. Queen a to check. Brilliant queen's sacrifice. Kramnik sacrifices another officer. This move is especially powerful because white has only one legal move, capturing the queen with their rook, inevitably setting the stage for an Arabian mate on the next turn. Although Gelfand resigned at this point, we will play it out to witness the Arabian mate in all its glory. The only legal move. Rook b1 checkmate. Here's the Arabian mate on the board. The rook delivers checkmate to the enemy king who is trapped in the corner. The knight supports the rook. The Arabian mate is both powerful and aesthetically pleasing. Take a moment to familiarize yourself with the checkmate pattern and be on the lookout for it in your own games.
Now let's look at some puzzles about Arabian mate. The knight is on the 6th rank, the enemy king is in the corner, and your rook is active. How do you deliver the Arabian mate in this position? Rook h7 checkmate. Well done. The knight is on the 6th rank, your d-rook is active, and the enemy king is in the corner. Can you find the move that lets you deliver the Arabian mate? Remember to use the check, capture, threat method. Awesome! Time to deliver the Arabian mate. Rook take g8. Checkmate. Great job. In this position, the temptation to capture the enemy queen with the bishop may arise for many players. However, considering the material count after black recaptures the white rook reveals that capturing the queen in this position puts black at an advantage. Yet, there's an opportunity to execute an unstoppable Arabian mate instead. Take the time to find the optimal square for your rook on c7 and identify where the Arabian mate could be delivered. Determine what obstacle stands in the way and how to eliminate the piece blocking it. Remember, the simplest way is often the best way. Here, if bishop takes c1, Knight takes c7, and black is better in this position because of the material advantage and the passed pawn. Instead, the white moved rook take f7. Rook take h7, checkmate, beautifully done. The chess time capsule has opened, revealing a gem from the match between the legendary Wilhelm Steinitz and Reiner in Vienna. 1860 Steinitz, the first world chess champion, showcased his tactical brilliance by discovering a powerful sacrifice leading to the Arabian mate. Let's dissect the battlefield. The knight is stationed on the third rank, the enemy king is in the corner, and your rook is eyeing that prime spot for an Arabian mate. If only the pesky enemy rook could be persuaded to step aside. It's time for you to channel your inner Steinitz. Here's where the check, capture, threat mantra becomes your guiding star. Can you spot the sacrifice that Steinitz made to pave the way for the Arabian mate? Brilliant queen's sacrifice. Well done. This queen's sacrifice gave us ownership of the G-file. It's time to deliver the Arabian mate. Great job, the Arabian mate in all its glory. The smothered mate is a well-known checkmate pattern that often involves a sacrifice. Certain openings, such as the Caro-Can, feature well-known traps where you can unleash a smothered mate on an unsuspecting opponent right from the opening. Let's take a closer look at the smothered mate, which is undoubtedly one of the most satisfying checkmates, given its beauty and terror combined. Let's take a closer look at the smothered mate, which is undoubtedly one of the most satisfying checkmates, given its beauty and terror combined. I am Peter Hogley introduced me to this self-composed exercise initially to emphasize the power of the double check tactic, but it also showcases the smothered mate. I thought this would be an excellent example to start with, as repetition in studying such tactics is always beneficial. If you examine this position, you'll notice that black not only has a significant material advantage, but they're also brewing a storm of threats that would make any opponent break into a cold sweat. When faced with such overwhelming danger, there's no time for daydreaming about dinner. You've got to act and act fast. Knight h6 check, great move, the double check in action. The double check is particularly potent because the opponent can't capture or block to pieces simultaneously, leaving them with the only option of moving their king. This severely limits their choices, making it much easier for you to anticipate their response and devise a lethal tactical blow. If king f8, white mate with queen f7, a kiss of death delivered by our queen. The knight and queen proved to be a formidable duo in delivering checkmates. The queen frequently secures checkmates adjacent to the enemy king, whether positioned in front or diagonally, with the support of a knight. Queen g8 check, brilliant queen sacrifice. This queen sacrifice acts like a magnet on the black rook, forcing it into the corner to smother the king. Rook take g8. Note the queen was defended by the white knight, meaning the king could not capture it and run away to safety. Knight f7 checkmate. The glorious smothered mate is on the board. Notice how the enemy king has no available squares to move to, and the knight cannot be captured. Remember that, although rare, the smothered mate can also happen in situations with no sacrifices if, for some reason, the opponent chooses to smother their own king. Stay vigilant if the enemy king has no available squares to move to and you have a knight nearby. Smothered mate, puzzles, let's go to practice. A chance to channel the spirit of the legendary Paul Morphy. Let's step into the shoes of the chess genius and witness the tactical brilliance he unleashed against Schröfer. Take your time and assess the positions of the pieces. Can you locate the same double check as Morphy did? If black king, 2, d8, queen d7 checkmate. Well done. How do you force the opponent into a smothered mate? Queen c8 check. Brilliant move. Knight d7. Checkmate. Great job. This exercise is drawn from an actual game featuring grandmasters Alexander Grishuk and Ruslan Ponomariev. Can you replicate Grishuk's achievement of delivering the smothered mate? Queen g8 check. Brilliant queen sacrifice. Knight f7. Checkmate. Awesome. In this exercise, we encounter a well-known trap in the Caro-Kann opening for black. Unfortunately, black has made a blunder and stumbled right into the trap. There is a smothered mate in one on the board. While it might be a bit tricky at first glance, employing the check, capture, threat method is key. Here's a hint. Pay attention to the positioning of your queen and identify which enemy pawn will be pinned to the black king once your knight on e4 moves. Great spot. Checkmate. Anastasia's mate is a common checkmate pattern that happens in chess. This checkmate involves the knight and either a rook or a queen. It occurs when the enemy king is near one of the board's corners. The knight pushes the king to the edge of the board while the rook or queen attacks the king on an open file. As you can see, the rook attacks the king, and the knight cuts off the escape g6 and g8 squares, delivering mate. Just like some of the other checkmates we've learned, this one needs a knight and rook. These officers corner the enemy king between a piece and the board's edge. To pull it off, you might have to sacrifice your queen along the A or H file. Anastasia's mate is pretty famous and something every chess player should know. Let's explore Anastasia's mate in a real game. We're looking at a match between the Norwegian grandmasters John Ludvig Hammer and Magnus Carlsen. Hammer is trying to threaten Carlsen's knight, but whoops. He misses the chance Magnus has to pull off Anastasia's mate. Queen h5. Check. Brilliant move. The one move in this position that takes us straight to checkmate. This move makes Hammer have only one option, to take the queen with his pawn. That sets Carlsen up to checkmate with Anastasia's mate. Hammer called it quits at this point, but let's play it through to witness the full glory of the checkmate pattern. Rook h4. Checkmate. Behold Anastasia's mate. Notice how the knight acts like a roadblock, preventing the enemy king from sidestepping the check from the rook. Take a moment to study the visual of this checkmate pattern and ingrain it in your memory. Call the pattern to mind whenever the enemy king is trapped at the board's edge with your rook and knight in the vicinity. And remember, sacrificing the queen is a small price to pay if it leads to checkmate. Let's practice this new type of mate. Anastasia's mate works both horizontally and vertically. How do you create Anastasia's mate in this position? Rook e8. Checkmate. Great work. Notice how the vertical Anastasia's mate kind of resembles the back rank mate, with the knight controlling the squares where enemy pawns would be in the back rank mate. Can you find WOM international master Marija Rakic-Vulicevich's powerful sacrifice that led to Anastasia's mate against Milika Milosavljevic? Rook a6, checkmate, great job. Let's finish the opponent off. Beautifully executed. In this position, black has a mate in 3, and it's Anastasia's mate. Utilize the check, capture, threat method to identify the sequence, and remember that your pieces must be put into position for Anastasia's mate to take place. Knight e2, check, great move. Now, let's pinpoint the finishing blow. Continue to apply the check, capture, threat method. Queen take h2, check, brilliant queen's sacrifice. Only move. Rook h4, checkmate, very well done. The opera mate is a checkmate pattern that was demonstrated by Paul Morphy while watching opera with the Duke of Brunswick in Paris, 1858. See diagram 1. In this position, Paul Morphy played queen b8, check. The only way black can escape the check is to accept the queen's sacrifice, but it leads to checkmate on the next move. See diagram 2. Black had to capture white's queen with knight take b8, but now Morphy with rook d8, checkmate, concludes the opera mate. Let's explore that very game. In the current position, the Duke and Count have just played the aggressive-looking bishop to g4. However, as we'll soon see, this move isn't very good. The renowned world champion Robert James Bobby Fischer has commented on this move, stating, "This is a weak move already, Fischer." D take e5. Bishop take f3, check, it's a mistake. Queen take f3. D take e5. Bishop c4. Following earlier exchanges, Morphy now commands tremendous pressure toward the f7 pawn and boasts a significant lead in development, with the Duke and Count yet to develop a single officer. Knight f6, it's a mistake. Queen b3, great move. Morphy confidently maneuvers his queen to b3, maintaining pressure on f7. It's crucial to note that the pawn on e4 isn't hanging. If black captures it with the knight, they fall into checkmate in 2, as illustrated in the provided sideline. Queen e7. Black protects the f7 pawn. Knight c3. c6, an awkward move indeed, but black intends to prevent the knight from c3 from causing any trouble. Bishop g5. Black is in what's like a zugzwang position here. He can't develop the knight because the pawn is hanging. The bishop is blocked because of the queen, said Fischer. We'll delve into zugzwang in the endgame chapter, but simply put, a player is said to be in zugzwang when any legal move worsens their position. b5, it's an inaccuracy move. Knight take b5, brilliant move. Morphy's position is so dominant that he can afford to sacrifice an officer. Lean back and enjoy this masterful follow-up by the historic chess genius. C take b5, other inaccuracy move. Bishop take b5, check. Knight b to d7. These pins are truly a nightmare for black. Castle queenside. Rook d8. Rook take d7. Rook take d7. Notice how the rook pins itself to the king after Morphy's exchanged sacrifice. Rook d1. Apply pressure on the pin piece. Queen e6. Bishop take d7. Check. Knight take d7. It's a mistake. Queen b8. Check. Brilliant sacrifice. The grand finale is set with this ingenious queen sacrifice. Knight take b8. Rook d8. Checkmate. Witness the opera mate unfolding on the board. The opera mate is characterized by the rook delivering checkmate, supported by the bishop, which also covers the diagonal. The opera mate isn't as uncommon in regular games as one might think, and it doesn't always necessitate a genius-level attack like the one showcased by Morphy. However, it frequently occurs following a sacrifice. As mentioned earlier, sacrificing an officer is a small price to pay if it results in a checkmate. Nonetheless, it's crucial to calculate thoroughly to avoid sacrificing for no gain. Legal's mate. The time has arrived to explore the final checkmate pattern of this chapter, known as Legal's mate, named after the French chess player, Sire de Legal 1702 to 1792. He frequently employed this pattern in his games, and since it operates as an opening trap, it's also referred to as Legal's trap. I highly recommend dedicating time to delve into different checkmate patterns and practicing them diligently. As mentioned earlier, chess fundamentally revolves around pattern recognition. The more patterns you acquaint yourself with and practice, the more decisive tactics and checkmates will unfold for you during your games. It's essential to note that this course does not cover many checkmate patterns involving bishops due to limited space. I strongly encourage you to invest time in independently exploring and studying these bishop-involved checkmates, as well as other checkmate patterns. They will enrich your tactical arsenal and contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of the game. Now let's examine this renowned game played by Sire de Legal. Take note of how Black's bishop has the knight on f3 and a relative pin towards the queen on d1. Wowza! What is going on here? Isn't the queen hanging? In this position, it's rumored that Legal touched the knight on f3 and only afterward, upon touching it, pretended to notice that the knight was pinned. By doing so, he tricked his opponent, who then insisted on enforcing the touch move rule. The touch move rule is the most basic rule of tournament chess. When a player intentionally touches one of their pieces, they must make a move with that piece, provided a legal move exists. Following this, Legal reluctantly played an xe5. However, this is all part of his devious trap. Let's see how this unfolds. Black has to correct alternatives to follow. Knight take e5. This is the correct response by Black. Queen take h5. Knight take c4. Queen b5. Check. c6. Queen takes c4. Black survives, but White is a pawn up in a superior position. The second alternative for Black is d take e5. Queen take h5. g6. Queen f3. Black survives here as well, but we are a pawn up in a better position. Returning to position after knight take e5. Brilliant move. Black moved bishop take d1. Great blunder. Black greedily snatches the queen, believing they have won the game. However, this move loses on the spot. Bishop take f7. Check. King e7. Knight d5. Checkmate. By capturing that queen, Black was checkmated in just 2 moves. Legal's mate. Trap is truly glorious. It's worth noting that sometimes this pattern is also referred to as Blackburn's trap, since J. Blackburn 1841 to 1924, a British master, also set this trap on many occasions. This pattern and trap occur on many instances. If you are lucky, you might spot it in one of your games. I have never experienced it, but if I do one day, I will never stop talking about it. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.